Harsh Mariwala wears two hats. First is founder and chairman of Marico Limited, the well-known consumer products company, and the second is the founder of the Marico Innovation Foundation. The second is inspired in many ways by the challenges faced by the first. The story starts in some ways with Marico's popular Parachute coconut oil brand and a tin of it. There are only that many things you can do with a tin of coconut oil if you want to make it more appealing to customers and want them to buy more of it. The question then, how do you innovate for a very useful but fairly dull product like hair oil? Or for that matter, cooking oil, and how could you extend that brand further? Because growth is everything. In the Core Reports Weekend Edition, I spoke with Mariwala at his head office in Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, and I asked him to join the dots for us, the innovation within Marico that keeps the company going and growing, and the innovation outside it with which he aims to make a lasting social impact. Mr. Mariwala, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Govind.
So we're going to talk about your work in entrepreneurship and fostering entrepreneurship, and I'm going to come to that in a little while. But before that, tell me, why did you even think of this? I mean, you've been running Marico for some time.
Yes.
At that point, when you decided to start this?
Yeah.
So arguably, Marico itself had a way to go, as it has gone subsequently.
Sure.
So why did you decide on this twin path?
So, I always thought that as organizations, we need to give something back to the society. And at that time, there was no compulsion of giving 2% of revenues for CSR. But we started our journey much earlier because we were convinced that as organizations, we have to look at all the stakeholders, including the society, the shareholders, of course, the customers, employees, associates. So I think the belief started from our purpose, which is to make a difference to all the stakeholders. And then we said that in our own journey, innovation has played a very important role. And whenever we have seen that innovation is succeeding, not to say that all the innovations have succeeded, many of them have failed, which is perfectly all right, because innovations have to fail. If they don't fail, that means you're not taking enough risks. So whenever we've seen the success of an innovation for our own brand or whatever we've done, we've seen a discontinuous impact on our growth. And it happened multiple times. So my belief in being innovative went on getting strengthened. We started working on creating an innovative culture. How can company become innovative from a cultural point of view in terms of risk-taking, prototyping, experimenting, removing the fear of failure, having good quality talent, a flat structure, openness, trust, things like that. But in addition to that, we said that we realized that innovation was not, at that time, 20 years back, was not getting that much of attention as it should be getting. It was not on the list of most CEOs at that time. Today, if you ask, innovation is virtually there in each and every CEO's list in terms of top priority. But at that time, it was not getting that much traction. And we said that innovation is very crucial for India to succeed, both in terms of its business success as well as from a society point of view. So social innovations, business innovations are both critical. And if India has to leapfrog into higher growth rates, I think innovation is very crucial. And some of the challenges we are facing, and we've seen that what happened with mobile, all of a sudden it changed the whole world. Can the same thing be done to other sectors like education, like healthcare? And with so much digital happening, clearly there are opportunities in agri also to innovate and take a big jump in terms of our overall effectiveness in these areas.
Right.
So I think we started with a strong belief that we need to get traction in corporate circles, in social circles. And with that belief, we just started. I didn't know anything. At that time, it was just more a desire to create awareness about innovation. So we did, firstly, when we started off, we did a study on innovation. State of innovation in India, which are the innovative organizations, and then we started teaching innovation in management schools at that time. And then the book on innovation came out, which became a bestseller. Then the awards came in, which are going to be happening on the 6th of March this year at Geo Convention Center. And we do those awards once in 2 years. So, and then after that, we've done many other things, like we've done studies on innovative organizations in plastics. We do scaling up, where at a time we are working with 15 to 20 organizations, helping them scale up, because we realized that many organizations were innovative, but they didn't know how to scale up. So innovations not being scaled up is an opportunity missed.
Got it. So you talked about discontinuous growth and how innovation can change the trajectory, so to speak. So tell us about what were the one or two examples in Marico that made you sit up and say, "Oh, this is what innovation can truly do." I'm guessing it must be to do with Parachute or Saffola,
Of
but
course, both.
yeah,
You're absolutely right. It has to do with our two main brands that we put it that way. In Parachute, when we innovated a long time back, I'm talking of 30, 40 years back now, the whole market for coconut oil was in tins. And we saw an opportunity of converting that market from tin to plastics because plastics is cheaper than tins. It's relatively more attractive. It's more convenient to use. And we thought we had a winner on hands. But when we went to the trade, we do a lot of inciting. So went to the consumer, they all loved that idea. Went to the trade, it was rejected because apparently prior to us, many years back, before we were to launch plastics, somebody else had launched coconut oil plastics. And that was a disaster because it was a square-shaped bottle, oil on the outer surface of the bottle. When the retailer closed the shop in the evening and opened next morning, all the rats had bitten away the coconut oil. And then we said that what do we do? There is a great opportunity, but we need to crack this because unless retailers buy it, you'll never, those days there's no e-commerce. There's no direct way of reaching the customer. So then we designed a round-shaped bottle, ensured that there was no coconut oil on the outer surface of the bottle, put them in rat cages, and that's how we got convinced nothing happened to the bottles. And then we went very aggressive. We took pictures of that, gave it to our field force, had monthly targets, and it was a matter of time. It took 5 years for us to convert the market from tins to plastics. But I think that because of that conversion, we went on putting in more money in advertising, whatever we were saving, and gave a lower pricing also compared to tin. So our market share just jumped up from 15% to 50%. And it's a large category, which is used by
every
all
household.
classes, all ages, So, I mean, we've seen a huge impact, and I think that is, and the same innovation, set of innovations, and not only I'm just giving one example. Coconut oil freezes in winter, so a lot of people would shift back to tins. And we came out with a wide mouth plastic bottle. So that got none. We were having a lot of duplicates, lookalikes for our brand, and we came up with innovation, which was a innovation in a mold, which was a combination of pilfer-proof and flip-top cap. So that again played a role. A few years later, we realized that the whole market in Bangladesh, which is a very large market, is in tins. So we said, why don't we do the same thing what we did in India? And we went very aggressive. Within a much shorter time, we converted the whole market there against local players, and we have an 80% market share. So it's done wonders for the brand. But now, when I speak about this innovation, a lot of questions come up, especially at events where, what are you doing for the environment, because, plastics causes harm, which all of us agree. We don't have a simple answer because going back to tins is one option, but it is far more expensive. People will not go back to tins. So then the innovation team came to us saying that, okay, can we do a study on innovations in plastics to reduce plastics usage, to replace plastic usage, and to ensure that it's reused, So 15 organizations were identified as a part of the study in different parts of reducing plastic. And we said, okay, how do we make it far more effective? So we started working with each organization in terms of helping them scale up. But that was not enough because the landfills which are there, we needed a larger initiative to impact that. So now we have signed up with a company based in Hyderabad, which does a lot of recycling. The name of the company is Sustainability. And now we are in the process of putting our project in Hyderabad and then Raipur to ensure that plastic gets recycled. And this is a state-of-the-art recycling plant, which is far different and far better than what other recyclers are doing in other cities. It segregates at a very high speed, AI-enabled, different brands of plastics, and we see that, and there's a good payback also. If that is successful, that prototype, we can actually extend that prototype all over India. It requires large investments, I must say, but I think the problem is huge, and there is enough and more of a support from corporates, from the government, the municipal corporations. So we see that if that is successful, and we are quite sure that it will be successful, we can roll it up in all India and to some extent play an important role in reducing landfills and the environment damage caused by the plastics.
But and you're saying that this is really a packaging innovation rather than a product
It is a
innovation.
packaging innovation.
Or the product
but
innovation may have been the weather, I mean the cooling part of it or the freezing
yeah,
part of
it's
it.
a packaging innovation. But for a, in
But
a
so
category
critical.
like coconut oil,
Hmm.
which is, I mean, our 30-40% of our turnover comes out of coconut oil, 30%, So it's big, and it's.
But you're at that time, you
Yeah.
were trying to save costs first or make the process of manufacture, packaging and distribution
No,
easier?
it was basically, ultimately it was viewed from a consumer angle.
Okay.
That consumer finds it far more attractive, far more convenient to use, and of course it is less costly, so that also appeals to the consumer. So I think ultimately for innovation to succeed, you have to have consumer inciting and based on consumer preferences. And I'll talk of one more innovation, which is in foods. So we launched Saffola plain oats. Saffola stands good for health, good for art, and oats is good to have. But when we launched, we got some market share because of the brand, because of distribution. But to fight against the bigger players like Kellogg's, Quaker, it was not enough. I mean, we were stuck at 10-15% market share. So we did some consumer insighting and identified that Indians like savory breakfast. And then we saw what Maggie did to the noodles category in terms of savory noodles and masala noodles and whatnot. So we said, can we launch a range of savory oats? So now we have launched last 4-5 years back. In South, you would have pongal oats, masala oats, veggie twist, and things like that. And that has created a completely new market for oats. And it's a 400 crore category we have created, and we have an 80% market share in that category. And because of that, our market share in oats also has jumped up. And I think we are close to becoming market leader if you combine both plain and savory oats. So again, based on consumer inciting and developing a product which is relevant to consumer, made a big difference in creating a new category and helping our plain oats also to increase market share.
So in this case, it also tells me, because obviously you've been around, that this is continuous innovation.
It has to be. I think
And-
it's a matter of time others will copy you. You have to be 2 steps ahead of your competition.
So people have obviously copied you. I mean,
Of course, they've copied,
whether
but
it's
if you have
plastic.
pioneered in something, then if you maintain and if you actually promote your brand and do it in the right way, it'll be difficult for others to dislodge unless they have something superior compared to you. And I think masala oats also others have started, but we've been able to retain our market shares. And even in coconut oil also, we've been able to maintain that market share which we had achieved because of the plastics launch.
So what have others tried in coconut oil, which you feel has been interesting, but maybe not big enough to
No,
dislodge
I
you?
can't single out anything else which is differentiated. So, because the category itself has limited potential for differentiation. If you have a value-added category like shampoos or hair oils or something else, then there would be opportunities for innovation. But in pure coconut oil, the opportunities for innovation, we already tackled all the issues in terms of clear coconut oil, in terms of smell. One new category of coconut oil which has opened up in the recent past is organic coconut oil, where also we have
Cold
entered now.
pressed
Cold
and-
press.
Yeah. And so what is the challenge there? It's not a packaging challenge so much, I'm assuming, as a market creation.
It's a market. It's not a very large market, but the awareness is increasing that need to have cold press oil. So I think it's the whole challenge is how do you stand out as a brand there. There is a lot of competition, and there our market share is not as high as say Parachute coconut oil.
So between creating or having an innovation ecosystem and environment within a company
Yes.
versus, let's say, working with smaller organizations who are starting out outside,
Yeah.
what are the differences that you've seen in these last 2 decades or so that you've been on this?
See, the biggest differentiation I've seen is that I think the usage of technology. Technology has played a very, very critical role in driving innovations. Technology and discontinuity, I would say both these. So I think many of the innovations we are dealing with either discontinuity or digital disruptions or technology. And I think that is the biggest disruption we've seen in the last 10 years or so. And the other thing is many innovators are doing this, but they don't have a business background. So these are small organizations led by some technocrats or some innovative individuals, but they don't know how to scale up. They do innovation and then they are stuck there because they don't have overall business mindset in terms of marketing, finance, whatever is required for you to succeed in the marketplace, And I think that's where we see ourselves playing a very important role, because we identify these organizations. We also invite these organizations to apply to us if they want to be scaled up. Of course, we will go through our own rigorous way of evaluating whether these are innovative organizations and whether can we add value to them. And I think anybody can apply if they go to our website of Marico Innovation Foundation. If they're innovative, we would evaluate that. We also work, we have an internal team, but we work with Marico talent because Marico talent would want to give something back to the society. So it's a very good way at an individual level to identify those who want to give something back. So many Marico managers are involved in helping these organizations scale up. We also go to campuses and we run a very popular program for the summer training. We give them 3 different organizations and their challenges, and many of them have to go rural, and many of them are social organizations which are innovative. And we have a competition, we give them awards, and that has improved our equity in the campuses substantially, because these are very innovative challenges which the students get to work on. In addition to that, we also are working with about 20-30 CEOs who have retired and who have the time and who have the inclination to give something back to the society. So I think all that combination plays an important role in creating business opportunities for innovative organizations. And we've seen that, I myself have got involved with some organizations which have become unicorns from virtually zero base. Organizations like Atomberg, S4S Technologies, which is in solar drying of vegetables and fruits. So I think all in all, it's very heartening and very enriching. This whole adding value to innovative organization is something I enjoy doing it. We play a catalytic role, but I think it has tremendous benefits to the organization.
And the underlying theme, as I'm interpreting from all that you're saying, is really solving problems or challenges that are facing, or something that is right in our face in this country.
Absolutely.
In our many markets, including agriculture.
Yeah.
So you're not looking for some grand, launch a rocket to the moon kind of thing, but you're looking.
Some of the winners, we've seen it, they have had drones. If they require help, we are of course there to help. Some of them are in some space technology, but the whole objective is to help innovative organizations get attention, awareness, some support, because our awards now are recognized, and our event also is very well attended. Almost 1,000 people come in, and very good quality crowd. So it has got that traction in terms of, if you are a winner of Marico Innovation Foundation Award, you can get, hopefully you can get more funds, you can get any other help, it improves your image. So I think all in all, it plays an important role. And this year we also have, for the award winners, I can't share the names at this stage, but we have worked out a package wherein they will get some traction in terms of media. They will get mentored. The scale-up program would be there. So there are a whole host of other benefits they will get. We don't give funds to them by design, because I think many people are giving funds, but we add a lot of value by doing other things which I think which is very, very crucial to the journey.
Right. So let me bring you to the marketplace today, including your marketplace, which is for consumer products. So we are in a situation, let's say, where we've seen the markets diverge in a way, right? So there's been premiumization. There is the lower end has slowed down in the last couple of years. What does this mean, and what is the opportunity here? I mean, for people who want to pitch to you today and say, I want to innovate,
Yeah.
what would you tell them to do? How would you
So I think
address
the
this
biggest
particular?
disruption happening in our sector is the emergence of D2C brands, because our
That's a distribution solution.
not necessarily distribution, both distribution and marketing. Because what used to happen in the earlier days, 10 years back, most defensive sector, very high valuations, very difficult for a national player to disrupt because of big budgets required in advertising, huge distribution network required. And now with the emergence of e-commerce, quick commerce, as well as digital marketing, you don't need that kind of money. So we've seen something like 500 brands coming in and disrupting not necessarily the FMCG sector, but other sectors also. And this could be a threat to you. It could be an opportunity. So from Marico, we have viewed it from an opportunity.
And you've acquired some of these
We
companies.
acquired 4 brands, and they will do a turnover maybe hopefully next year 2,000 crores or so. So we have looked at it from an opportunity point of view. I think very few other FMCG companies have been as aggressive in acquiring D2C brand as we have been. But coming back to your question about what is happening in the business, so I think you have to look at the environment is such that we have seen very low growth rates. If you look at last quarter results, most companies have low single digit growth rates. We've had double digit, mid, I think 14% growth rate or something, which is, I think the foods has played an important role because we launched foods as a new vehicle to growth. So you have to look at growing. Growth is very important for any organization. Of course, the environment plays a role, but even if the environment is not good, you have to find new growth avenues, And we have done it through entry in foods and D2C brands. But the environment is not as good. As you rightly put it, there is a lot of stress, especially in the middle and lower income groups, partly because of inflation, partly because of
income contraction.
Income contraction. So there is a real issue there. And I mean, you can say that you need to add capacity, you make investments. My viewpoint is that, if there is demand increases and there is higher capacity utilization, no entrepreneur is not going to invest more. You're not going to invest just for the sake of investing, but provided there is demand, of course, you'll invest, So I think the key thing is to increase demand. The government has taken a step in terms of providing some income tax relief, but that's more at the middle and upper middle levels, not at the lower middle and lower levels where the real problem exists today.
And if you were to go back, I mean, I'm sure you've seen these cycles before.
We've seen that cycle, but this is, this is a little bit unexpected in terms of why this has occurred. Because at one level, India's macros are in good shape in terms of fiscal deficit and things like that. But still, and inflation is relatively, it's not very high. It's not so bad,
Well, food inflation has been high, but overall inflation has been low.
But it's little, I don't know, puzzling. One doesn't know whether, the impact on some people blame GST, some people still blame the demonetization. I don't know. I'm not an economist, but I don't know what has resulted in this. But at the upper end, as you rightly put it, whether it's real estate or cars, until now, cars have again gone down. It has been a great journey.
So what is the role of innovation at a time like this when, let's say, you're trying to find new markets or differentiated approach to the same markets, and more importantly, you want people to spend something or spend more on a certain category despite their incomes being limited.
Yeah.
So let's say they're spending more on education today, which they are because they feel the need to. Maybe they're spending more on healthcare, defensive or responsive, because they have no choice.
Yeah.
So those are eating up more and more of their income. But now you're saying, okay, I want you to spend on this, maybe shaving products or maybe, let's say, more oil or oats. So how do you address that challenge? I mean, what would an innovator
continuously innovate in terms of consumer insighting, depending on the sector you are in? Can you do something which is far differentiated, where there'll be traction for consumers to buy that product? I mean, look at what is Zudio done in garments, So offering products at a relatively lower price point, attractive products. So there could be opportunity. There could always be opportunities to innovate, Some of the initiatives which Reliance has undertaken in terms of acquiring not very popular brands, but known brands, and offering at a deep discount. They've been able to increase market size for sure now. And they have capacity to at least bleed for some time until they increase the market size, So I think you'll have to be a little disruptive if you ask me, whether it's pricing or whether it's a product or whether consumer insighting. If you really want to grow and beat this so-called downturn.
Now, the other question which people used to ask you maybe 15, 20 years ago was, how do you perceive multinationals? Because there was a sense that, now I don't, maybe that question is not so relevant today, but I feel it's still interesting to ask that.
Yes.
And, as a standalone company brand who's not really partnered with anyone else,
Yes.
how do things look today?
So I think from the point of view in the marketplace, I think we don't feel at some stage, maybe I'm talking of 15, 20 years back, when we didn't have the right distribution network, we didn't have the right level of competencies into the marketing or in product development. Today, we don't feel inferior because I think the technology required in many cases, of course, they have a global scale, so they will be able to invest much more. But I think it's not a key differentiator in FMCG. So we believe that we are at one level, we are level playing field. Now, it all depends on which category you want to get into. In some categories, if they already are market leaders, it will be difficult to disrupt unless you have something innovative. So, but at an organizational level, I think whether it's talent, quality of talent or technology or marketing or distribution, we may be slightly, compared to a large giant like levers, may be a little off, but otherwise, we don't feel that we are far inferior to them. And to that extent, we can take them on if we have the right product.
Yeah. No, and I guess you have. So the question is this. So at some point of time, you must have realized, and this is a while ago,
Yeah.
that, okay, if we have the ideas, then we can take on the Goliaths of this space. So when was that point? I'm just curious.
No, I think from day one when we started the business many, many years back, first we identified areas where we have a strong right to win, where they were not concentrating on certain sectors because it was too small or it was not a part of their global portfolio of products. And I think that provided us great opportunity to occupy that spaces, and not only occupy the spaces but becoming a market leader. So if you look at Marico's portfolio of products, virtually in each and every brand and product we are in, we are market leaders because we chose the right categories. But now that we are a market leader, where does growth come from? So now we went into some categories where MNCs are far more, shall I say, stronger. So whether it's baby or shampoo or skincare, we now have to have some differentiator. So our differentiator in many cases is Parachute and coconut equity. So coconut is strongly associated with Parachute, and we have the highest right to win in that category if it makes a difference to the customer. And coconut is a superfood, and it can be leveraged. It has very good, I would say, emotional bonding with all the Indian households because of it's auspicious fruit, and you use it for when you get married or when you enter a house and things like that. So we're trying to do that.
So I'm going to come to the innovation and the innovators in a moment. But this is for people who may not know. How did that name Parachute come in? It seems like such an unusual name for a coconut oil.
Yes, it was when I joined the family organization. It was already there, the brand, and it was mainly sold in the big tins, that is 15-liter tins. And the retailer at that time, they would dispense it to the consumer in loose form. The consumer would carry their own bottle and get it loose. We converted the market from unbranded big tins to the small packs, and I continued that brand. A lot of that had told me that please change the brand name, but I don't know why. But it was getting good traction, and I never felt like changing, and because that would again put us back by some time. For I finalize the brand name, packaging, everything designed. So it was just, I would say, intuition. I don't know why, but it just happened. The original name came from the World War days. When the big tins in, I think, Second World War, Parachute was used. It was new. When, from the planes, people would drop down in parachute, and that's how.
So they would drop oil? Is that how?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just parachutes
war,
dropping
people.
People would come down through the parachute. And I think one of my uncles must have thought it's worth having that brand name. So then the same uncle was telling me, you've changed the brand name in small packs. But luckily we didn't change, and I don't think there is any negative to it.
No, not at all. So let me come to those companies that you've supported through the foundation, and there are some 70 companies or ventures.
Yes.
Now, tell me about, let's say, if you were to pick 3 or 4 as you look back, what's really stood out for you, and whichever way you define success, and that you, in a way, feel epitomizes, symptomizes what is India's strength, and can therefore be an example, or should be an example for others to look at.
I can think of 3 organizations, and if there is one common thread amongst all these 3 organizations is they've leveraged technology, So the first one is Atomberg Technologies, which leverages technology to reduce the power consumption in fans. When they came, they were doing very small turnover, and then we worked with them, and then it's become Sonicon now. I think must be doing a turnover of, I don't know exactly, but 300-400 crores. They're more than that. Then the second organization I can think of is S4S Technology. They came out with their innovative way to dry fruits and vegetables. Then they came to us and they said that we want to launch our own brands of dried, sun-dried tomatoes and all that. And my being in branded products, we said that don't do that. It's very difficult to. And that time there was no. I'm talking of 5-7 years back. The emergence of e-commerce and was not there. It just started. So I said, why don't you look at institutional sales? And at that time, we saw an emergence of so many QSR chains. So why don't you work with them, whether it's McDonald's or KFC or something, and provide them products? So they started doing that, and they saw very good traction in that. And they had immediate sales. They didn't have to make their own brand or distribute. And I think that has been quite successful, and they've been able to scale up, and they've become a Sonicon. The third organization talk of is Eshitwa, which was identified as a part of our research on plastics, and the research was done by Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and Praxis Consulting, and they had identified, as I mentioned, 15 organizations which were doing research, and we realized that again, leveraging technology, very high speed recycling machines, AI enabled, which would segregate different types of plastics brand wise. And I think that's very important because FMCG brands, if I am able to get the same brand through recycling route, the same product through, then I can reuse them properly and I can have a circular kind of economy and make a claim about that. And that's what we are going to use most likely in the Hyderabad project, which I talked about earlier. Again, very high tech machines, very high speed, and we are quite bullish about that organization also.
So when you meet some of these entrepreneurs in the process of selection, do you look for qualities in them which are like yours or totally different? Or
no, I think at that time they have to be innovative because innovation is the key driver for us to identify. Even if they don't have entrepreneurial qualities, that's where we can make a difference. So our job is to make them entrepreneurial, make them think from a business point of view. If they're not in business, then from a social point of view, how can they scale up? So it's not necessarily entrepreneurial. We would look at innovations which have potential to grow and which have been under leveraged and they don't know how to make it happen.
But what about the soft qualities?
I think that's also important. So how do you attract talent? How do you retain talent? So I think we go all the way, everything, not necessarily technology or not necessarily functional area, but softer side of attracting talent, retaining talent, leadership issues, because these are very crucial for any entrepreneur to succeed. And but they need not have that when we have identified the innovation. I think that innovation should, the whole objective is it is innovative. That's the most important thing. It should have potential to grow, and that's where we come in, that we will exploit and help them grow, but without anything in return. I mean, we don't charge them anything.
And where have you seen an example, even one or more, where you've seen someone take an approach or to a situation or a market which is very different from how you would have done it and goes against your own instinct?
I can't think of anything which is.
So you're saying there's a convergence at all times between.
Yeah, I mean, it's the route which, like I talked to you about S4S, we changed the route completely in terms of how to think business, in terms of B2B business. And so I think that really played an important role.
And what do these companies over time, what have they taught you? I can see the benefit, but I'm saying, would
I
you
think
say
the exposure itself, it just teaches us, how to scale up. And I think more than that, it gives us tremendous satisfaction not only to me personally, but to the whole team as well as to Marico people. And I think we are playing our role in terms of making a difference to them. But each business is different, so I'm not able to capture the teaching, but I think it's quite exciting. And maybe some of them could be leveraged for our own core business also. But how do you innovate is the biggest, shall I say, learning. How do you leverage technology is very, very crucial.
Hmm. So last question. So if you were to lay out 2 or 3 key challenges that
Yes.
we as a country need to fix
Yes.
in the context of businesses solving them. I'm not talking about political or other business challenges to be solved by entrepreneurs and innovators.
Sure.
How would you list, like, let's say the top 2 or 3?
So I think first of all, I must say that before I answer your question, that the whole environment has changed in the last many years. And I think so happy that so many new entrepreneurs are entering businesses and coming in from small towns, coming in from not business families. And the whole ecosystem is not fully developed, but going towards creating more and more entrepreneurship. And I think the only way India can become a 5 trillion economy is through entrepreneurs. The government, of course, has a role to play, but ultimately entrepreneurs have to take the baton in their hands and make it happen. And I think that's where you need to identify disruptions, what's happening in the environment globally, even including supply chain disruptions, political changes. These are all opportunities for growth. Technological disruptions. To me, disruptions is the biggest opportunities for growth. And disruption can be a threat, but can we look at disruption more from an opportunistic angle? To me, that's the biggest. Of course, the ecosystem has to develop. We need to have good talent. We need to know how to leverage the technology. We need to have the outside in terms of what is happening in terms of global trends, global technology. How quickly can it come in? How can we use more and more of AI at every level in an organization? But this is one gap. It takes some time. There's a translation loss between the time it's developed in a country to actually bringing it here. And the biggest gap I've seen it is in medium and small scale organization where they don't know how to go digital. They don't know how to leverage technology. If you ask me, that's a big, big gap. And if organizations or consultants are helping them achieve that, because they don't know how to. I mean, digital there is completely black box for them. How at an organizational level can you prioritize what do you want to digitize? It will differ with the kind of business you are in. So you need to prioritize that and then have a roadmap of digitization which removes some of the escape buttons and has full-time attention, because it has huge impact. You cannot digitize. No organization can afford not to be digitized. But I think many organizations don't know, especially at medium, small scale organizations. They don't know how to digitize. So I think these are some of my thoughts.
Right. So since you've talked about disruption,
Yeah.
let me pose a
Yeah.
supplementary question.
Yes.
So a big disruption, or perhaps the biggest right now that we're looking at, is obviously geopolitics and tariffs. So you are a global company, you are in Bangladesh, and that's gone through one round of disruptions. I'm not going to quiz you on that, but I think that's something that you may want to use in your answer. But when tariffs go up, it is
Yeah.
a disruption because it affects a lot of companies, particularly
True.
exporting companies. It could affect your supply chains.
True.
So could that be an opportunity? If so, how?
For us, it may not be, because I think most of the companies where we are big presence, we have our own manufacturing there. We have our own supply chain, so it's locally manufactured. Our total international business forms about 27% of our turnover. I don't have exact figure, but 25 out of 27 is or 23 or 25, that range is where we have our own factories and we don't export from India. So the tariffs are not likely to impact us, and I don't even know what are the tariffs. But even if the tariffs go up
In the US.
impact on us will be very little.
But if you were, I mean, my question is also hypothetical. If you were, let's say, exporting, suppose you were a garment exporter and the US was a big market, how would you look at it?
I think there will be multiple things. One is, how do you tackle it? How do you tackle the US market? Can you improve your cost structure? Can you do something innovative which will get traction at a higher price point? Another is, because a lot of countries will get affected, the
Same way.
competition will increase in non-US markets. So in Europe and other markets where people will be far more aggressive, China and others. So that's another challenge which organizations have to face.
Right. Mr. Mariwala, thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
me.
Govind. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.